Hello and welcome to a read-along of Frank Herbert's classic Dune, Book 1, Chapter 13. I am Mario Velez, and we are reading on this edition I just showed in the screenshot, page 158. On that first day, when Muad'Dib rode through the streets of Arrakeen with his family, some of the people along the way recalled the legends and the prophecy, and they ventured to shout, "Mahdi!" But their shout was more a question than a statement, for as they could only hope he was the one foretold as the Lisan al-Gaib, the voice from the outer world. Their attention was focused, too, on the mother, because they had heard she was a Bene Gesserit, and it was obvious to them that she was like the other Lisan al-Gaib. From Manual of Muad'Dib by the Princess Irulan. The Duke found Thuffir Hawat alone in the corner room to which a guard directed him. There was the sound of men setting up communications equipment in an adjoining room, but this place was fairly quiet. The Duke glanced around as Hawat arose from a paper-cluttered table. It was a green-walled enclosure with, in addition to the table, the suspensor chairs from which the Harkonnen H had been hastily removed, leaving an imperfect color patch. "The chairs are liberated but quite safe," Hawat said. "Where is Paul, sire?" "I left him in the conference room. I'm hoping he'll get some rest without me there to distract him." Hawat nodded, crossed to the door to the adjoining room, closed it, shutting off the noise of static and electronic sparking. "Thuffir," Leto said, "the Imperial and Harkonnen stockpiles of spice attract my attention." "My lord?" The Duke pursed his lips. "Storehouses are susceptible to destruction." He raised a hand as Hawat started to speak. "Ignore the Emperor's hoard. He'd secretly enjoy it if the Harkonnens were embarrassed, and can the Baron object if something is destroyed which he cannot openly admit that he has?" Hawat shook his head. "We've a few men to spare, sire." "Use some of Idaho's men, and perhaps some of the Fremen would enjoy a trip off-planet. A raid on Giedi Prime. There are tactical advantages to such a diversion, Thuffir." "As you say, my lord." Hawat turned away, and the Duke saw evidence of nervousness in the old man. Thought, perhaps he suspects I distrust him? He must know I've private reports of traitors. Well, best quiet his fears immediately. "Thuffir," he said, "since you're one of the few I can trust completely, there's another matter bears discussion. We both know how constant a watch we must keep on to prevent traitors from infiltrating our forces. But I have two new reports." Hawat turned and stared at him, and Leto repeated the stories Paul had brought. Instead of bringing on the intense metat concentration, the reports only increased Hawat's agitation. Leto studied the old man and, presently, said, "You've been holding something back, old friend. I should have suspected when you were so nervous during staff. What is it that was too hot to dump in front of a full conference?" Hawat's sappho-stained lips were pulled into a prim, straight line with tiny wrinkles radiating into them. They maintained their wrinkled stiffness as he said, "My lord, I don't quite know how to broach this." "We've suffered many a scar for each other, Thuffir," the Duke said. "You know you can broach any subject with me." Hawat continued to stare at him, thinking. "This is how I like him best. This is the man of honor who deserves every bit of my loyalty and service. Why must I hurt him?" "Well?" Leto demanded. Hawat shrugged. "It's a scrap of note. We took it from a Harkonnen courier. The note was intended for an agent named Pardee. We've good reason to believe Pardee was top man in the Harkonnen underground here. The note, it's a thing that could have great consequence or no consequence. It's susceptible to various interpretations." "What's the What's the delicate content of this note? Scrap of note, my lord. Incomplete. It was on minimic film with the usual destruction capsule attached. We stopped the acid action just short of a full erasure, leaving only a fragment. The fragment, however, is extremely suggestive. Yes? Hawat rubbed at his lips. It says, Leto will never suspect, and when the blow falls on him from a beloved hand, its source alone should be enough to destroy him. The note was under the Baron's own seal, and I've authenticated the seal. Your suspicion is obvious, the Duke said, and his voice was suddenly cold. I'd sooner cut off my arms than hurt you, Hawat said. My lord, what if... The Lady Jessica, Leto said, and he felt anger consuming him. Couldn't you wring out the facts of this Pardee? Unfortunately, Pardee no longer was among the living when we intercepted the courier. The courier, I'm certain, did not know what he carried. I see. Leto shook his head, thinking, what a slimy piece of business. There can't be anything in it. I know my woman. My lord, if... No! The Duke barked. There's a mistake here. That... We cannot ignore it, my lord. She's been with me for 16 years. There have been countless opportunities for... You yourself investigated the school and the woman. Hawat spoke bitterly. Things have been known to escape me. It's impossible, I tell you. The Harkonnen want to destroy the Atreides line, meaning Paul, too. They've already tried once. Could a woman conspire against her own son? Perhaps she doesn't conspire against her son, and yesterday's attempt could have been a clever sham. It couldn't have been a sham. Sire, she isn't supposed to know her parentage. But what if she does? What if she were an orphan, say? Orphaned by an Atreides? She'd have moved long before now. Poison in my drink, a stiletto at night. Who has better opportunity? The Harkonnens mean to destroy you, my lord. Their intent is not just to kill. There's a range of fine distinctions in Conley. This could be a work of art among vendettas. The Duke's shoulders slumped. He closed his eyes, looking old and tired. It cannot be, he thought. The woman has opened her heart to me. What better way to destroy me than to sow suspicion of the woman I love? He asked. An interpretation I've considered, Hawat said. Still. The Duke opened his eyes, stared at Hawat, thinking, let him be suspicious. Suspicion is his trade, not mine. Perhaps if I appear to believe this, that will make another man careless. What do you suggest? The Duke whispered. For now, constant surveillance, my lord. She should be watched at all times. I will see it's done unobtrusively. Idaho would be the ideal choice for the job. Perhaps a week or so we can bring him back. There's a young man we've been training in Idaho's troop who might be ideal to send to the Fremen as a replacement. He's a gifted diplomacy. Don't jeopardize our foothold with the Fremen. Of course not, sire. And what about Paul? Perhaps we could have let Dr. Yue. Leto turned his back on Hawat. I leave it in your hands. I shall use my discretion, my lord. At least I can count on that, Leto thought. And he said, I will take a walk. If you need me, I'll be within the perimeter. The guard can... My lord, before you go, I have a film clip you should read. It's a first approximation analysis on the Fremen religion. You'll recall you asked me to report on it. The Duke paused, spoke without turning. Will it not wait? Of course, my lord. You asked what they were shouting, though. It was Mahdi. They directed the term at the young master. When they... Paul? Yes, my lord. They've a legend here, a prophecy, that a leader will come to them, child of a Bene Gesserit, to lead them to true freedom. It follows the familiar Messiah pattern. They think Paul is this Mahdi. They only hope, my lord. Hawat extended a film clip capsule. The Duke accepted it, thrust it into a pocket. I'll look at it later. Certainly, my lord. Right now I need time to think. Yes, my lord. The Duke took a deep, sighing breath. Strode out of the door. He turned to his right, down the hall, began walking, hands behind his back, paying little attention to where he was. There were corridors and stairs and balconies and halls, people who saluted and stood aside for him. In time, he came back to the conference room, found it dark and Paul asleep on the table with the guard's robe thrown over him, and a dirty pack for a pillow. The Duke walked softly down the length of the room and onto the balcony overlooking the landing field. A guard at the corner of the balcony, recognizing the Duke by the dim reflection of lights from the field, snapped to attention. At ease, the Duke murmured. He leaned against the cold metal of the balcony. A pre-dawn hush had come over the desert basin. He looked up. Straight overhead, the stars were a sequin shawl flung over the blue-black. Low on the southern horizon, the night's second moon peered through a thin dust haze, an unbelieving moon that looked at him with a cynical light. As the Duke watched, the moon dipped beneath the shield wall cliffs, frosting them, and in the sudden intensity of darkness, he experienced a chill. He shivered. Anger shot through him. The Harkonnen have hindered and hounded and hunted me for the last time, he thought. They are dung heaps with village provost minds. Here I make my stand, and he thought, with a touch of sadness now, I must rule with eye and claw, as the hawk among lesser birds. Unconsciously, his hand brushed the hawk emblem on his tunic. To the east, the night grew a faggot of luminous gray, then seashell opalescence that dimmed the stars. There came the long, bell-tolling movement of dawn striking across a broken horizon. It was a scene of such beauty, it caught all his attention. Some things beggared likeness, he thought. He had never imagined anything here could be as beautiful as that shattered red horizon and the purple and ochre cliffs. Beyond the landing field, where the night's faint dew had touched life into hurried seeds of arachis, he saw great puddles of red blossoms and, running through them, an articulate tread of violet, like giant footsteps. It was a beautiful morning. It's a beautiful morning, sire, the guard said. Yes, it is. The Duke nodded, thinking, perhaps this planet could grow on one. Perhaps it could become a good home for my son. Then he saw the human figures into the flower fields, moving, sweeping them with strange, scythe-like devices, dew-gatherers, water so precious here that even the dew must be collected. And it could be a hideous place, the Duke thought. That ends Chapter 13. We are now on page 166. I hope you guys enjoyed the read-through. Please watch the rest if you'd like. Leave any comments if you have any, and share and like these in order to support me directly. You can also support me financially by purchasing one of my 2 published works, poetry collections, which I leave links in the description. Hope you guys have a wonderful night. Stay comfy.